Hey guys, welcome to Joe Knows. Just doing a little yard work, getting some stuff ready, and glad that you tuned in again today. I want to talk to you, continue our little talk about suffering, and really more pertinently, how to come alongside a person and help a person when they suffer. Now, if you haven't been one of those people that suffered yet, I promise you at some point in life you will, but I also am sure that you know someone who has. And I've been talking about a couple of things. We've had two Joe Knows that talked about suffering, and the first time I said is we don't try and take the load away from them. We don't try and lift the load because we can't necessarily do that. We share the load. So if a person's suffering looked like a backpack that was very heavy, instead of trying to take the backpack off their shoulders, when we come alongside them while we're there, we share the load and we take a little of the weight of the backpack off their shoulders by helping to carry it with them, not take it away. Because suffering can't always be taken away, now can it? And then last week we talked about the importance of knowing what you don't know. When we approach a situation where people are suffering and we think we know, we're probably not going to be that helpful because the chances of us actually knowing are not really good. And I've been teaching in my sermons that come out weekly from the book of Job, and no one had any idea what was going on. So as they tried to tell their friend, as they thought they knew what to tell him, they were wrong because they didn't even understand what was happening. So we have to know what we don't know. And I want to give you another tip that can help you be effective when you come alongside someone that's suffering. And today I want to talk about the importance of not assuming that there is a cause and an effect. Okay, and let me unpack this for you. The idea of a cause and effect, it means something like this. I don't know if you can see that my grass is green, but there's a cause to green grass. And the cause is you put fertilizer down and water it, and the effect is that the grass gets green and it looks kind of nice. Cause and effect. I have some koi in my yard on the other side, and there's a cause and effect to a koi getting big. You feed them a lot, and they eat the food, and the koi get big. And oftentimes we assume that there's a cause and an effect when a person suffers. We think perhaps there's something that they've done, the cause, and the effect is the suffering. So in a subtle way, we're actually telling them that it's their fault that they're suffering. Now, if you've ever suffered and someone gives you that kind of advice, they're not being very helpful. And again, I'm not talking about a person that has made bad choices and is suffering for consequences. When people do wrong, there is often a cause and effect to situations that we're in, but you don't assume that when a person's suffering. You know, we've had some things happen recently in our world, our very small world now, but there's a war going on in Ukraine. So if you want to help the Ukrainian whose house has been blown up and who lost most of their family, and you assume that there's a cause and an effect, you're going to make a mistake, because maybe there's not. When you talk to that Russian soldier who just joined the army because he thought it was something he wanted to do and he's following orders, and maybe he was severely wounded, and you tell him there's a cause and an effect, there's something you did wrong that caused that. We just get ourselves in trouble. There was a shooting just the other day. Now, none of us would ever even suggest that one of those, I believe there were 19 children that died, that there was a cause and effect between their death. But sometimes when people suffer, we connect those dots. They don't always connect very well. Jesus, my best friend and my mentor, he actually said that, speaking of rain as a blessing of God, Jesus said this: the blessing of God in the form of rain comes on the righteous and the unrighteous. So when it rains and it produces a crop, and rain, usually in an agrarian society when the Bible was written, rain meant that people got to eat. And Jesus said this, he says, listen, God's good gifts, he rains them on the righteous and the unrighteous. People that maybe don't even believe in God, people that don't even want to follow God, still receive God's blessing. And then Jesus talked about another situation. He said there was an event where some people they were sacrificed, and their blood was mixed in with the sacrifice made up by Galileans. It's a terrible thing. People were killed for sport. And there was another situation where a tower fell down. This is actually in Luke chapter 13, if I remember correctly. And a tower fell down and 18 people were killed. And what Jesus said about that event, he said, do you think that the people whose blood weren't mingled with the sacrifices by the Galileans to their false gods, do you think the people whose blood wasn't sacrificed were any better than the ones who were? Or the people who didn't get killed by the tower that fell were any worse than the ones that did? What Jesus was trying to say is there's not always a cause and an effect when people suffer. Bad things happen to bad people. Bad things happen to good people. Good things happen to bad people, and good things happen to good people. The principle that you reap what you sow is true, but it doesn't always apply. So here's what I want us to do. The next time someone is suffering and you think you know the reason why, and you think it's something that they've done that caused them to suffer, the cause, something they did, and the effect is their suffering, I want you to keep that to yourself. I want you to pray about it, but don't mention it to them, particularly while they're suffering, if you want to help them, because you won't help them very much. So I hope this is helping you to know how we can help people when they suffer. God bless you. We'll talk next week.